Amelia Hart sat behind her wide glass desk, staring at the city skyline outside her office window. From the 32nd floor, the world looked small. Cars like tiny toys, people like moving dots. The hum of the city was far away. Muted by the thick walls and her own exhaustion, she leaned back, rubbing her temples, trying to ease the dull ache behind her eyes. It had been another long day filled with meetings, deadlines, and decisions that demanded too much of her. To everyone else, Amelia was the image of success, the powerful CEO of a growing technology company, the woman who had built an empire from the ground up. Her staff admired her discipline, her calm tone, and the way she never seemed to falter under pressure. But inside, Amelia felt something hollow. Every time she looked at her phone and saw the small photo on the lock screen, a picture of her daughter smiling under the sunlight, the emptiness grew stronger. Her daughter, Lily, 6 years old, beautiful, kind, gentle, and completely silent. Not because she didn't want to speak, but because she couldn't. Doctors had run every possible test since Lily was 2. Her vocal cords were fine. Her brain scans were normal. There was no physical reason why she didn't talk. Yet the house stayed quiet, filled only with the soft sounds of toys clinking, pages turning, and the faint music from her little piano. Amelia had learned to read her daughter's expressions like a language. A small smile meant she liked something. A look to the side meant she didn't. A frown meant she was scared. But what broke Amelia most was the silence during moments when other children would have called for their mothers. When Lily fell, or got startled, or wanted to share something exciting. She would just run into Amelia's arms and hug her tight, pressing her face into her mother's shoulder. No words, no sound, just the quiet weight of love and longing. The thought made Amelia sigh as she turned off her computer. She was supposed to be home an hour ago, but work had dragged her again. Her assistant had already left and the office floor was nearly empty. The city lights flickered below and the evening sky faded into shades of orange and purple. By the time Amelia's car pulled into her driveway, it was almost 7. The housekeeper opened the door, smiling politely. "Welcome home, Ms. Hart. Dinner is ready." "Thank you," Amelia said softly, setting her bag down. "Where's Lily?" "In the living room, ma'am." Drawing again. Amelia walked through the spacious house. Modern, quiet, beautifully designed, yet somehow cold. The walls were filled with paintings, the shelves lined with awards, but it all felt lifeless. The only thing that breathed warmth into it was the little girl sitting cross-legged on the carpet near the window. Lily looked up as her mother entered. Her big brown eyes shone softly in the dim light. A half-finished drawing lay on the floor. A tree, a swing, and a small girl with yellow hair. "Hey, sweetheart," Amelia whispered, kneeling beside her. She brushed a strand of hair from Lily's forehead. "That's beautiful. Is that you?" Lily nodded slightly and pointed to the little figure on the swing. Then she pointed at another smaller figure in the corner, a woman with long hair and a phone in her hand. Amelia's heart sank a little. "That's me, isn't it?" Lily looked at her mother for a moment, then slowly reached for another crayon and colored the phone bright red. Amelia smiled weakly, blinking back the sting in her eyes. "You're right. I'm always on the phone, huh?" Lily didn't answer, of course. She just looked down, her small fingers tracing the outline of the drawing. Amelia sat beside her for a moment, silent. The room was filled with the faint ticking of the clock and the rustle of paper as Lily continued coloring. Finally, Amelia took a deep breath and said, "How about we go somewhere tomorrow? Just you and me. No phone, no work, I promise." Lily looked up quickly, her eyes brightening just a little. "The playground," Amelia said softly. "Would you like that?" Lily blinked, then nodded. A small, careful nod, but enough to make Amelia smile for the first time all day. It had been months since they'd gone anywhere just for fun. Amelia always told herself she was too busy. There was always one more deal to sign, one more project to finish. But tonight, as she tucked Lily into bed and kissed her forehead, she felt a quiet determination growing inside her. Tomorrow, she would make time. The next morning was bright and clear. Sunlight poured through the windows as birds chirped outside. Amelia woke up earlier than usual, skipping her usual morning emails. She dressed simply, jeans, a white shirt, and a ponytail, something she hadn't done in years. When Lily walked into the kitchen, rubbing her sleepy eyes, She froze for a moment at the sight of her mother holding 2 sandwiches and a backpack. "Guess what?" Amelia said with a smile. "We're going out." Lily tilted her head curiously. "To the playground," Amelia said. "Remember?" The little girl's face lit up. She didn't make a sound, but her smile was wide enough to make Amelia's heart swell. The drive to the park was short, but for Amelia it felt like a new experience. Usually the car was filled with business calls and music meant to drown out silence. But today it was quiet, and a peaceful kind of quiet. Lily watched the world through the window, her small hands pressed against the glass as trees and houses passed by. When they arrived, the park was already busy. Children ran around laughing, parents chatted on benches, and the smell of freshly cut grass filled the air. Amelia parked the car and helped Lily out. The girl clutched her favorite teddy bear tightly in one arm. "Go on," Amelia encouraged gently. "You can play. I'll be right here." Lily hesitated, looking around at the crowd of kids. She wasn't used to this. Most of her playtime happened indoors with tutors or therapists. But after a moment, she took a few small steps toward the swings. Amelia sat on a nearby bench, watching carefully. She wanted to give her space, but every instinct in her body made her want to follow and protect. A group of children ran past, shouting happily. Lily watched them with wide eyes, her fingers still gripping her teddy. She wanted to join. Amelia could tell why, but something held her back. Fear, maybe, or habit. Minutes passed. Lily finally sat on one of the empty swings, moving gently with her feet. The chain squeaked softly. Amelia smiled sadly. "You're doing great, baby," she whispered under her breath. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Out of habit, she pulled it out, a message from her assistant about a last-minute investor call. She sighed, staring at the screen for a long moment, torn between worlds. Then she looked up again at her daughter, sitting quietly in the middle of laughter and noise, and she turned the phone off. For the next hour, Amelia simply watched. The sound of children laughing mixed with birds singing and the creak of swings. Every so often she'd wave or smile when Lily glanced her way. It was peaceful, something she hadn't felt in a long time. But as the minutes passed, Amelia couldn't help feeling a strange ache inside. She saw other mothers chatting freely with their kids, laughing, asking questions, listening to stories. She saw fathers pushing their children on swings, catching them at the bottom with easy laughter, and she wondered, what would Lily's voice sound like? Would it be soft, high-pitched like other little girls? Would she call her mommy or mama? She'd never know, at least not yet. Amelia was lost in thought when a small red ball rolled across the ground, stopping near her feet. She looked up and saw a boy running toward it, a cheerful-looking kid with messy hair and a bright blue t-shirt. "Sorry," he said politely, grabbing the ball. "It rolled away," Amelia smiled. "That's okay." The boy ran back to a tall man standing near the playground fence, maybe his father, Amelia guessed. She didn't know then that this man would soon change everything about her and Lily's lives. For now, though, she just sat quietly, watching the world move, the laughter, the noise, the sunlight reflecting off the metal slides, and her little girl swinging gently, surrounded by sound yet living in silence. And for the first time, Amelia felt something she hadn't in years. Hope. Not the forced kind she told herself every night before bed, but a small, fragile hope, like a whisper carried by the wind, that maybe, just maybe, her daughter's silence wasn't forever, that somewhere, somehow, life still had a surprise waiting for them both, and it would begin right here, in the middle of that playground, under the bright morning sky. The next few days after the playground visit felt strangely different for Amelia. It wasn't that anything big had happened. Lily hadn't started speaking or suddenly changed, but something inside Amelia had shifted. That morning at the playground had reminded her of something she'd almost forgotten, what it felt like to just be a mother, not a boss or a planner or a problem solver. She kept seeing the image of Lily on the swing in her mind. The way her little legs kicked the air, the way her hair caught the sunlight, and how she'd looked so calm and peaceful in that moment. Amelia realized that maybe her daughter didn't need more experts or more lessons. Maybe she just needed her. So when Saturday came, Amelia decided to do it again. She shut her laptop early, turned off her phone, and packed a small bag. Snacks, juice boxes, a ball, and Lily's favorite teddy bear. "Guess where we're going today?" she said as Lily sat on the couch hugging her stuffed bear. Lily looked up curiously, her eyes wide. To the playground, Amelia said with a soft smile. You liked it last time, didn't you? Lily nodded, a small, careful nod that made Amelia's heart flutter. This time Amelia felt more prepared. She wasn't just taking her daughter to play. She wanted to understand her world, her quiet, beautiful, mysterious world that lived without words. When they arrived, the playground looked almost the same as before. Children were laughing. The swings moved back and forth, and parents sat on benches talking about weekend plans. The air smelled of freshly cut grass and sunshine. Amelia parked the car, helped Lily out, and they walked hand in hand toward the park. Lily's small fingers felt warm in her palm, and Amelia couldn't help but smile. Do you want to try the slide today? She asked softly. Lily tilted her head thinking, then pointed toward the swings instead. Amelia laughed quietly. Of course. The swings it is. She helped her daughter onto one of the swings, holding it steady as Lily adjusted herself. Then slowly she began to push, gently back and forth, just enough for the swing to move with the breeze. Lily's hair lifted with every swing. Her little feet pointed up and a tiny smile spread across her face. There you go, Amelia whispered. See, you're flying. For a moment, everything felt light. The tension that usually followed Amelia everywhere seemed to fade. She wasn't the CEO today. She wasn't the woman buried in business deals and endless emails. She was just a mom, and that was enough. Nearby, a few children were playing tag, their laughter echoing through the park. Lily watched them closely as the swing slowed. Her eyes followed every movement, every shout, every smile. She seemed fascinated by how easily they all connected, how words flowed between them like air. Amelia noticed it too. Her heart ached a little. She wanted her daughter to have that, to laugh with other children, to tell stories, to be part of that noise. After a while, Lily got off the swing and pointed toward a sandbox. Amelia followed her, sitting nearby on the low wooden edge. Lily knelt down and began to dig, scooping handfuls of soft sand into small piles. You building a castle? Amelia asked. Lily nodded without looking up. Can I help? This time she smiled and handed her mother a small plastic shovel from the toy basket by the side. Together they worked in silence, shaping towers, building walls, decorating with pebbles and little twigs. It wasn't the kind of silence that hurt. It was peaceful, warm, full of understanding. Amelia realized that sometimes silence could be its own kind of language. As they finished their small sandcastle, Amelia noticed movement nearby. The same little boy from before, the one who'd lost his red ball, was back at the playground. He was laughing as he chased after the ball again, while a tall man stood a few feet away, watching with an easy smile. It was the same man from last time, the single father she had noticed briefly. He looked relaxed, wearing a faded blue shirt and jeans, his sleeves rolled up. His expression carried a kind of quiet kindness that instantly made people feel at ease. Lily seemed to notice him too. Her eyes followed the red ball as it bounced across the sand. Go ahead, Amelia said softly. You can play if you want. But Lily stayed where she was, clutching a handful of sand. Her eyes flicked between the ball and the other children, uncertain. Amelia didn't push. She'd learned that forcing things never worked. Instead, she gave a small smile and said, It's okay, sweetheart. We can just watch. A few minutes later, the red ball rolled toward them again, like it had a mind of its own. It stopped right beside Lily's knee. Before Amelia could say anything, the boy ran over, panting lightly. Hey, that's my ball, he said cheerfully, then paused when he noticed Lily looking at him. You can throw it back if you want. Lily blinked, her hand hovering over the ball. The boy waited patiently, not moving closer, just smiling. It's okay, he said. You can do it. Lily hesitated, then slowly picked up the ball and handed it to him. Thanks, the boy said. I'm Noah. Amelia's eyes softened. She wanted to tell him that Lily couldn't talk, but something stopped her. She decided to wait, to see what would happen naturally. Noah grinned. Do you like sandcastles? Lily tilted her head slightly, not answering. You can help me build a big one if you want, he said, plopping down in the sand beside her like it was the most normal thing in the world. I'm really good at castles. Amelia almost wanted to step in, to explain, but she didn't. Something about Noah's natural kindness kept her quiet. For the next few minutes, the two children built quietly together, Noah talked softly about his school, about how he once made a sand volcano, about how his dad promised to take him camping soon. Lily didn't respond with words, but she listened closely, nodding now and then. Her little hands worked beside his, shaping towers and walls. Amelia watched from the side, feeling something stir deep in her chest. She hadn't seen Lily play with another child in months. Just then, Noah's father walked over carrying 2 juice boxes. "Hey buddy, share one with your friend," he said with a warm tone. Noah smiled and handed one to Lily. "Here, it's apple flavor. It's the best one." Lily looked up at him, then at the juice box, unsure what to do. Amelia gave a gentle nod from the bench. She took it slowly, holding it with both hands. "Good job, sweetheart," Amelia whispered under her breath. The man turned to her and smiled. "She's your daughter?" "Yes," Amelia replied softly. "I'm Amelia." "I'm Daniel," he said, offering a polite nod. "That's my son, Noah." "They seem to be getting along," Amelia said. "Yeah," Daniel said with a chuckle. "He makes friends faster than I can keep up." There was a brief pause, a comfortable one. Amelia glanced at her daughter. "She doesn't usually connect this easily," she admitted quietly. Daniel nodded, not pressing for details. "Kids have their own pace," he said simply. "Sometimes they just need the right person to make them feel safe." His words lingered in her mind long after he said them. The children continued playing until the sun began to dip lower. Noah and Lily built another sandcastle, bigger than the first, with tiny stick flags and shell windows. At one point, Noah said something that made Lily cover her mouth to hide a giggle, silent but unmistakable. Amelia's breath caught. She hadn't seen her daughter laugh like that in a long time. As the sky turned golden, Daniel called out, "All right, champ, time to go." "We've got to make dinner," Noah groaned. "5 more minutes?" Daniel smiled. 3. Amelia stood and brushed off her jeans. "Come on, sweetheart, we should go too." Lily looked up at Noah, then back at her mom. She didn't move right away, almost as if she didn't want the moment to end. Noah waved. "See you next time?" Lily nodded shyly. Amelia smiled. "I guess we'll be back soon," she said softly. Daniel returned the smile. "Then we'll see you around." As they walked back to the car, Amelia held Lily's hand a little tighter. "You had fun today, didn't you?" she asked. Lily didn't answer. She never did, but her tiny hand squeezed her mother's back. That was enough. When they got home, Amelia helped Lily get ready for bed. After tucking her in, she sat by her side for a while, watching her breathe softly in the dim light. Maybe this was how healing began, not in therapy rooms or hospitals, but in quiet afternoons with new friends and simple kindness. Amelia didn't know it yet, but that one small meeting at the playground had started something big, something that would change their lives in ways she could never have imagined. And tomorrow, she would find out just how powerful one gentle voice could be. The next Saturday morning arrived with a sky as clear as glass. The sun peeked gently through the curtains, spreading golden light across Amelia's room. She sat on the edge of her bed, sipping coffee and staring at the calendar on her phone. Meetings, calls, and deadlines filled the week ahead. But for once, none of it mattered. Because today was for Lily. She'd made a quiet promise to herself that she wouldn't let work steal these moments anymore. Watching Lily change, not even just a little, since meeting Noah had reminded her what really mattered. It wasn't success or numbers or headlines. It was this little girl who still lived in silence, but whose eyes now carried more light than before. When Amelia walked into the living room, Lily was already awake, sitting on the couch with her teddy bear. The little girl looked up, her eyes bright as if she somehow knew what day it was. "Good morning, sweetheart," Amelia said softly. "You ready for the park?" Lily's smile appeared slowly, shy but full of warmth. She nodded, clutching her teddy tighter. Amelia helped her into her small blue jacket and tied her shoes.
"Let's see if your friend Noah is there today," she said, not realizing how much hope was hidden in her own voice. The park was busier than usual.
A soft wind carried the scent of flowers from the nearby garden, and the sound of children laughing filled the air. As soon as they arrived, Lily's eyes began searching the playground, scanning the slides, the swings, the sandbox. Amelia noticed it too and smiled quietly. "Go on," she said gently. "You can look for him." Lily walked a few steps ahead, her small figure framed by sunlight. She stopped near the sandbox where a familiar red ball rolled lazily across the sand. And there he was, Noah sitting cross-legged with a toy truck, deep in concentration. When he saw Lily, his face lit up instantly. "Hey, you came back," he called cheerfully. Lily didn't respond with words, but she smiled, a wide, genuine smile that made her cheeks glow. She knelt beside him without hesitation. Amelia sat down on the same bench as before, just a few steps away. And not far from her, the boy's father, Daniel, stood with a cup of coffee watching the children play. He noticed her and gave a polite nod. "Good morning," he said. "Morning," Amelia replied, returning the smile. "Looks like they're already busy." "Yeah," Daniel said with a small laugh. "Noah's been asking all week if she'd come back." Amelia's heart warmed at that. "That's really sweet." They watched as the two children built something together. A mix of a castle, a mountain, and whatever their imaginations decided halfway through. Noah talked nonstop, explaining what each part was. Lily didn't say a word, but she followed every move closely, responding with smiles and gestures. Daniel took a sip of his coffee. "She's quiet, huh?" he said softly. Careful not to sound intrusive, Amelia hesitated. "Yes," she said finally. "She doesn't talk." He nodded, not surprised or awkward. "Some kids are like that," he said gently. Noah barely said a word until he was almost 4. "We thought something was wrong too." Amelia turned to look at him. "Really?" "Yes," Daniel said, smiling faintly. Then one day he just started talking about dinosaurs and never stopped. Amelia chuckled. "That must have been a relief." "It was," he said. "But it taught me something. That kids open up when they feel safe, not when they're pushed." His words settled deep inside her, like they carried more weight than he realized. For a long while, they just sat quietly, watching the children. The morning sun made everything glow softly. The trees, the sand, even the small curls in Lily's hair. At one point, Noah picked up the red ball and looked at Lily. "Do you want to play catch?" he asked. She stared at the ball, hesitating. Amelia tensed slightly, but Daniel leaned forward and said gently, "He's good at catching. You can trust him." Lily looked up at him, then back at Noah, and slowly nodded. Noah grinned. "Okay, ready?" He tossed the ball lightly, and it landed right in front of her. She caught it, clumsily, but she caught it. Noah clapped. "Nice one." Amelia felt something in her chest loosen. Pride, relief, maybe both. They played for a while, throwing the ball back and forth. Each time Lily caught it, Noah cheered. Each time she missed, he laughed in a kind way and told her, "Almost." It was such a small thing, but to Amelia it felt like watching her daughter learn to breathe all over again. After a while, the ball rolled away toward the trees. Noah ran to get it, leaving Lily alone for a moment. Daniel stood up and walked over to her slowly, crouching down so he was at her level. "Hey there," he said softly, smiling. "That was really good catching." Lily blinked, studying his face carefully. He picked up a stick and started drawing a small smiley face in the sand. "You like drawing?" he asked. She nodded. "Cool. Me too. You know what this one is?" He pointed at the face in the sand. Lily looked, then used her tiny finger to add a few lines. Long hair and a bow. Daniel laughed softly. "Oh, she's got hair now." "Nice touch." Amelia watched this from the bench, her throat tightening. Her daughter wasn't hiding. She wasn't looking away. She was engaging. When Noah came back, the two kids started playing again, this time making patterns in the sand. Daniel joined them for a bit, helping them draw roads for toy cars. Then something small but powerful happened. As Daniel drew another smiley face, he said lightly, "Let's give him a name." "How about Ben?" Noah laughed. "No, that's boring." Daniel grinned. "All right, you pick." Noah looked at Lily. "What should we name him?" Lily stared at the face in the sand for a few seconds. Then very softly, so soft that even Amelia almost missed it, she whispered, "Sunny." Daniel froze. His eyes widened slightly and he looked at her gently as if afraid to scare the moment away. "What did you say?" he asked softly. Lily looked at him again, her lips trembling just a little, and repeated, "Sunny." The sound was faint but clear. For a second, the whole world seemed to stop. The children, the laughter, the wind, everything faded into the background. Amelia's breath caught in her throat as tears welled in her eyes. Her daughter had spoken. Her daughter, who hadn't said a single word since she was born, had just spoken for the first time. Daniel smiled softly, his eyes warm with understanding. "Sonny," he said, nodding. "That's a perfect name." Noah clapped his hands. "Sonny, I like it too." Lily smiled, a shy, uncertain smile, but her eyes shone with pride. Amelia stood up slowly, her legs trembling. She wanted to run to her daughter, to hug her, to cry, but she didn't move right away. She just stood there watching, her hands pressed to her mouth. Daniel looked at her, understanding immediately what that moment meant. He gave a small nod, no words needed. A few minutes later, as the children returned to their game, Amelia finally walked over. She knelt beside Lily, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Sweetheart," she whispered, her voice shaking. "You said a word." Lily looked up at her mother, then at Daniel and Noah, unsure what to do. Amelia brushed her hair back gently. "Sonny," she repeated softly. "You said Sonny, that's beautiful." Lily tilted her head slightly and reached out, not with words, but with her small hand. Amelia took it, squeezing gently, trying to hold back sobs. Daniel stood a few steps away, giving them space. There was kindness in his eyes, and maybe something else too, a quiet respect for what he had just witnessed. After a long moment, Amelia looked up at him, still holding her daughter's hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't even know what this means." He smiled humbly. "You don't have to thank me." She just needed someone to listen. That night, long after they'd gone home, Amelia couldn't stop replaying that single word in her head. Sonny. It was small, simple, almost ordinary, but to her it was the most extraordinary sound she'd ever heard. She sat beside Lily's bed, watching her sleep peacefully, her teddy bear tucked under her arm. For years, Amelia had lived with fear that her daughter would never speak, that she'd never hear her voice, that something would always be missing. But that fear was gone now, replaced by something brighter, hope. And though she didn't know it yet, this was only the beginning. Because the man who had helped her daughter speak, the stranger from the playground, would soon become much more than that. He would become part of the reason their lives changed forever. That night, Amelia barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard the same word echoing softly in her mind. Sonny. It was such a small word, simple and bright, but to her it sounded like the most beautiful music in the world. For 6 long years she had waited for that sound, had prayed, hoped, and sometimes even doubted that it would ever come. But it did, and it came not in a hospital room or a therapy session, but in a playground from the mouth of her little girl while playing with a kind stranger and his son. Amelia lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling. She wanted to believe it hadn't been a dream. Every few minutes she'd whisper the word softly, smiling through quiet tears. Sonny, the first word her daughter had ever spoken. When the morning light finally crept through the curtains, she got out of bed and walked into Lily's room. The little girl was sitting cross-legged on her bed, brushing her doll's hair. When Amelia entered, Lily looked up, her small face calm and happy. "Good morning, sweetheart," Amelia said gently, kneeling beside her. "How are you?" Lily smiled. She didn't speak, but her eyes were bright, and somehow that was enough. Amelia brushed her hair away from her face. "Do you remember yesterday?" she asked softly. "You said a word." Lily tilted her head curiously. "You said Sonny," Amelia reminded her with a smile. "Do you remember that?" The little girl blinked, then nodded slowly. She looked at her doll, then at her mother, and whispered again, quiet but clear, "Sonny." Amelia froze, her heart fluttering wildly. It wasn't just a one-time moment. Lily remembered. She pulled her daughter gently into her arms, tears filling her eyes again. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so proud of you." Lily didn't quite understand why her mother was crying, but she hugged her tightly anyway. Later that morning, Amelia decided to visit the park again. Something inside her told her it wasn't just luck. It was connection. Somehow the way Daniel and Noah had treated Lily with patience and gentleness had opened something inside her. Maybe it wasn't about medical answers anymore. Maybe it was about heart. When they arrived, the park was quieter than usual. The air was cool, the sun soft. Lily held her teddy bear close as they walked toward the familiar swings. Do you see them? Amelia asked softly. Lily looked around, scanning the playground. Then her face lit up as she spotted Noah running toward the sandbox. Daniel was there too, sitting on the bench, holding a cup of coffee in one hand and a small toolbox in the other. When he saw Amelia, he smiled and waved. "Hey there," he said as she approached. "We were just starting to think you'd forgotten about us." Amelia smiled shyly. "Not a chance." Noah ran to Lily, holding out a handful of small toy cars. "You want to build roads today?" he asked eagerly. Lily nodded, setting her teddy down and kneeling beside him. Amelia and Daniel watched them for a while, sitting quietly on the bench. Finally, Daniel turned to her. "So, how's she doing?" Amelia hesitated, her throat tightening. "She said it again this morning," she whispered. He blinked, surprised. "She did?" "Yes," Amelia said, her eyes shining. "It wasn't just a one-time thing." She remembered the word. She said it like she meant it. Daniel smiled warmly, leaning back. "That's amazing." Amelia nodded, struggling to hold back tears. "You don't understand. I've been waiting for this for so long. I thought it would never happen." Daniel looked out at the children playing, his expression soft. "You know, sometimes kids don't need fixing," he said quietly. "They just need to feel seen." Amelia turned to him, curious. He went on, "My late wife, and she used to say that. She was a child therapist. She always told me that kids don't talk until they feel like someone's really listening." Amelia felt a lump rise in her throat. "Your wife? She was a therapist?" Daniel nodded slowly. "Yeah. She worked with kids who had speech delays, social anxiety, trauma, you name it. I used to help her with her play sessions sometimes. I wasn't trained or anything, but I learned a lot just watching her." He smiled faintly at the memory. "She said words aren't always the goal, and connection is. Once a child feels safe, words find their way out." Amelia looked at Lily, who was now laughing, silently but visibly, as Noah showed her how to race toy cars down a little dirt hill. "Maybe that's what happened yesterday," Daniel said. She felt safe. Amelia nodded, her heart swelling with emotion. "You know, all these years I've been running to doctors, therapists, specialists, and not one of them gave her what you and Noah did." Daniel shook his head modestly. "We didn't do anything special." "Yes, you did," Amelia said softly. "You saw her. You didn't look at her like something was wrong. You just treated her like a normal kid." Daniel smiled quietly. "That's because she is a normal kid," Amelia smiled back. "I think I needed to hear that more than she did." They sat in silence for a moment, watching their children. The air felt calm, like the world had slowed down just for them. After a while, Daniel opened the small toolbox he'd brought. Inside were pieces of wood, small nails, and a little hammer. "What's that?" Amelia asked curiously. "A project," he said with a grin. "Noah's been wanting to make a birdhouse. Thought we could do it here. Kids love helping." He looked at Lily. "You think she'd like to join?" Amelia smiled. "You can try asking." Daniel stood and crouched beside the kids. "Hey, builders," he said in a playful voice. "Want to help me make something?" Noah's eyes lit up instantly. "What is it?" "A birdhouse," Daniel said. "But I can't do it alone." Noah turned to Lily. "You want to help?" She hesitated for a moment, looking at her mom. Amelia gave an encouraging nod. Lily slowly stood and moved closer to Daniel. He handed her a small wooden piece, light, smooth, easy to hold. "This is the roof," he said gently. "You think it should go like this?" He placed it crooked on purpose, making a silly face. Lily giggled. A soundless giggle, but her smile was wide and full of joy. She shook her head and moved the piece slightly to the right. "Ah, that's better," Daniel said with a grin. "You've got a good eye." Amelia couldn't stop smiling. Her daughter was helping, engaging, and for the first time there was no sign of fear in her movements. Together they built the small birdhouse, Daniel guiding them patiently. Noah hammered a few nails while Lily held the pieces steady. When they finally finished, Daniel handed her a small paintbrush. "Now," he said, "the most important part, the color. What color do you think this little house should be?" Lily looked at the birdhouse for a moment, then dipped the brush in yellow paint and began to stroke it carefully. "Yellow," Daniel said softly, "like sunshine." "Sunny," Lily whispered again, barely audible. Amelia's breath caught once more. Daniel froze for a moment, then looked at her with quiet surprise. Amelia nodded through tears. "She said it again," she whispered. Lily kept painting, humming softly now. No words, just a tiny, tuneless hum. But it filled the air with something Amelia hadn't felt in years. When they finished, the birdhouse glowed in bright yellow. Daniel helped Noah and Lily hang it on a nearby tree branch. "There," he said proudly. "Now the birds have a home." Lily tilted her head, looking up at the little house swaying in the breeze. She smiled, and for the first time she looked completely at peace. Amelia stood beside Daniel, her voice quiet. "I don't know how to thank you." He shook his head gently. "You don't need to. I'm just glad I could be here for this." Amelia turned to look at him. Really look. And for the first time, she saw the kindness in his eyes not just as a stranger's, but as something deeper. There was something grounding about him, something honest and warm that made her feel safe too. When it was time to leave, Lily surprised everyone by reaching out to hug Noah. He blinked, then grinned and hugged her back. Amelia smiled, blinking away tears. "Say goodbye, sweetheart," she whispered softly. Lily hesitated, then looked up at Daniel and said in a tiny, trembling voice, "Bye." It was just one word, but it made both adults freeze in astonishment. Daniel smiled warmly. "Bye, sunshine." Lily blushed and ran to her mother's side. As they walked back to the car, Amelia felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Not just hope, but gratitude. Her daughter had spoken not once, but twice that day. And it all started with a man who had shown them what true patience and kindness could do. And deep down, she knew this was only the beginning of something even more beautiful. Not just for Lily, but for all of them. Amelia sat by her living room window that evening, the small yellow birdhouse sitting carefully on the table beside her. Lily was asleep in her room, holding her teddy bear and smiling faintly, something she hadn't done in a long time. The whole house felt lighter, quieter, peaceful, as if a heavy weight had finally been lifted. She kept thinking about Daniel and what he had said earlier that day. His words kept echoing in her mind. Sometimes kids don't need fixing. They just need to feel seen. That simple truth had hit her harder than anything she'd heard in years. For so long she had treated Lily's silence as something broken, something that needed to be repaired, measured, solved. She'd taken her to experts, booked endless appointments, and filled her home with books on child development. But in all that rush, she had forgotten what really mattered: connection. The next morning, Amelia made pancakes for breakfast, something she hadn't done in months. The smell filled the kitchen, and Lily came padding in, rubbing her eyes. "Good morning," Amelia said softly, smiling as she flipped another pancake. Lily climbed onto a stool and watched her. After a few moments, she whispered, "Smells good." Amelia froze, the spatula in midair. She turned slowly, her heart swelling. "You said that," she whispered. Lily smiled shyly. "Smells good," she repeated. Tears filled Amelia's eyes as she set the spatula down and knelt beside her. "It does, doesn't it?" she said, smiling through the tears. "It's your favorite. Blueberry." Lily nodded and reached for her mother's hand. It was such a small moment, but it felt like everything. After breakfast, Amelia decided to take Lily to the park again. She wanted to see Daniel, and not just to thank him, but because something inside her told her that he understood things she had been too afraid to admit for years. When they arrived, Daniel and Noah were already there, sitting near the sandbox with a small wooden box between them. Daniel looked up and smiled when he saw them. "Hey there," he said, standing up. "Morning, sunshine." Lily's face brightened. She didn't speak, but she waved shyly. "Hey, Daniel," Amelia said softly. "I hope we're not interrupting." "Not at all," he said, brushing the sawdust off his jeans. "We were just working on something for the birds. Noah wanted to make a feeder to go with the birdhouse." "That's wonderful," Amelia said. "She'll love that." They sat together while the children played, and for a while, they just watched, the sound of laughter and the chirping of birds filling the warm air. After a few moments, Amelia spoke quietly. "I wanted to thank you for everything you did for her." Daniel smiled gently. "You don't have to thank me. You and Lily did the real work." She shook her head. "No, I mean it. You helped her in a way no one else could." She spoke again this morning. His eyebrows lifted in pleasant surprise. "Really? That's amazing." Amelia nodded. "She said smells good while I was making breakfast." He chuckled softly. "Guess she likes your cooking." Amelia laughed too, though her voice trembled. "You know, I used to dream about hearing her voice. Every night I'd imagine what it would sound like. And now that I have, I can't stop thinking about it. Daniel looked at her thoughtfully. You've been through a lot, haven't you? Amelia hesitated. Yes, she admitted quietly. More than I let people see. He didn't say anything, just listened. Really listened, the way someone does when they care. After a moment, she went on. When Lily was born, I promised myself I'd give her the best life I could. But my company started growing, and the work never stopped. I'd leave early, come home late, always thinking I was doing it for her. But maybe I was just running from my guilt. Daniel's eyes softened. Guilt? She nodded. Her father left before she was even born. He didn't want the responsibility. I told myself I didn't need anyone, that I could do it all. And I did, at least from the outside. But inside I was falling apart. I think Lily felt that even when she was little. Daniel stayed quiet, giving her space to speak. I thought if I worked hard enough I could make everything okay, she continued. But the truth is I missed her growing up. I missed moments I can't get back. And now that I see how she lights up with you and Noah, I realize she just needed someone who wasn't always in a hurry. Daniel leaned back, his expression kind. You're being too hard on yourself. You did what you thought was best. And you're here now, and that's what matters. Amelia looked down, her voice trembling. But I don't know how to make it up to her. He smiled gently. You don't need to. Just be with her. Kids don't remember the times you got it wrong. They remember the times you showed up. Amelia looked at him, her eyes wet. You sound like you've been through something similar. Daniel nodded slowly. Yeah, after my wife passed, I didn't know how to be a dad. I felt lost. I tried to fill the silence with work, fixing things, building things, anything to avoid how empty the house felt. But one day, Noah came to me with a drawing of us holding hands. He wrote under it, Dad is home now. That's when I realized he didn't need a perfect father. He just needed me. Amelia's eyes glistened with emotion. That's beautiful. He smiled faintly. It's not perfect, but it's real. For a while they sat in silence again, watching their children dig holes in the sand and pretend they were building castles. There was something peaceful in the simplicity of it. Then Lily suddenly ran over, holding something in her small hands, and a tiny, smooth stone shaped like a heart. She held it out to Daniel shyly. For you, she whispered. Daniel blinked, surprised. For me? Lily nodded, smiling. He took the stone gently, his eyes soft. Thank you, sunshine. I'll keep it. Amelia watched the moment with tears in her eyes. It was small, but she knew how big it truly was. Her daughter wasn't just speaking, she was connecting. After the kids ran off again, Daniel turned to her. She's opening up fast. You should be proud. I am, Amelia said softly. I just wish I knew how to keep this going. You already do, he said. You're giving her time, attention, love. That's what keeps it going. As the afternoon sun began to fade, the four of them sat together on the grass, watching the birds come to the feeder. Amelia found herself laughing, a real laughter, as Noah explained how he and Lily were bird parents now. Daniel joined in, his smile wide and warm. When it was time to leave, Amelia hesitated. Would you, maybe, want to come over for dinner one evening? She asked nervously. Daniel looked pleasantly surprised. Are you sure? She nodded. Lily would love it. And so would I, he smiled. Then I'd be honored. That night, after putting Lily to bed, Amelia stood by her window again, looking at the stars. She thought about how much had changed in just a few days. The silence that used to haunt her home was slowly being replaced by laughter, by warmth, by hope. She realized something else too, that Daniel had helped her as much as he had helped Lily. He reminded her that being strong didn't mean being perfect. Sometimes it meant admitting you needed help. Sometimes it meant slowing down enough to notice the small, beautiful things. The next few days became a gentle rhythm of simple joys. Breakfast together, walks in the park, small conversations that meant everything. Lily spoke a few more words here and there, and not a lot, but enough to fill the air with hope, and every time she did, Amelia felt that same mix of wonder and gratitude. It wasn't just about her daughter finding her voice anymore. It was about both of them learning how to live again, how to connect, to breathe, to love without fear. As she watched Lily sleep peacefully that night, Amelia whispered softly, We're going to be okay, sweetheart. I promise, and for the first time in years she truly believed it.